All right. Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Faith Fitness Joy podcast. I am your host, health coach, and healer, Rochelle Renee. Today's episode is episode 119. It is called Stay Off the Scale, Alternative Ways to Measure Your Weight Loss and Body Transformation Progress That Won't Drive You Insane. So today, I want to talk about something that can often be a source of frustration and even discouragement, and that is that bathroom scale. Us ladies in particular seem to be obsessed with the scale, and many of us base our sense of self-worth or our beauty on the number on that little display on those scales. And the scale is just one of many ways to measure progress, and frankly, it is a crappy, we'll say, measure at that. There is so much more to you than the number that is on the scale, what you weigh, and there are many other far better ways to assess whether your eating and exercise plans are paying off or working for you. So today I am going to break down why the scale sucks as a measure of progress when it comes to transforming your body, and I'm going to lay out alternative measures that you can use instead of the scale. I hope that by the time that you finish listening to today's podcast episode, that you are inspired to ditch that scale for good, or at the very least, step on it far less often than you have been. When I think about the amount of time that I have spent in my life obsessing over the number on that stupid scale, it makes me sick. I didn't even know about other measures of progress for years, even, probably a decade plus before I kind of started learning about other ways to track your progress when it comes to weight loss or body transformation. And even then, when I did learn about things like tracking your body measurements, for example, in addition to weighing yourself, I still was obsessed with the scale. And if the scale did not show the number that I thought it should or that I wanted to see, then I would feel like absolute crap for however long it would take me to get myself out of the funk about it. Because in my mind, it meant that I still hadn't done it. I still wasn't thin. I wasn't fit. I wasn't skinny. I wasn't whatever I thought I was going to, but I thought I should be in terms of my weight and how my body looked. And as you can probably gather from me sharing this part of my past and sort of this obsession that I had with the scale, I was basing my self-worth, my sense of, how good I thought I looked and my sense of self-worth on the stupid number on this scale. And if I couldn't get that scale to say the number I thought I had to be in my head, then, I would just feel like absolute crap. Now, it wouldn't be until about 15 years later from when I first started like tracking my measurements before I finally decided to get this whole thing in check, this whole like dynamic that was going on with me and the scale. I forced myself finally at this point in time. So this was probably about 7, 8 years ago now. I forced myself to stay off the scale, except for when I was checking my progress, which I also had to force myself to do only once every couple of weeks. And that's when I would check my other progress measures that I was looking at in addition to whatever my weight was at the time. And these are the things that I'm going to be diving into in today's episode. But first, let's break down why the scale is so just horribly inadequate when it comes to painting a complete picture of how you are doing with your weight loss or your body transformation efforts. So the scale is a limited tool at best. So for many of us, the scale has been like the go-to tool for measuring weight loss progress or whether we are, reaching our goals in terms of whatever we want to look like physically. It provides a snapshot of your weight. That's it. That's all, friends. That's all it does. It provides a snapshot of your weight at a given point in time. It does not tell you the whole story of your fitness or your overall progress with your goals. And here's why. So the first reason is that there's actually 3 reasons why the scale is not any sort of adequate measure of how you're doing with your weight loss or your body transformation efforts. The first one is normal fluctuations in weight that occur. The second one is muscle versus fat. And the third one is whole health, which I'll get into a little bit. So let's dive into the first thing. Normal fluctuations in weight. Your weight fluctuates daily. regardless of what you do, regardless of what you eat, whether you're on a diet or not, your weight fluctuates from day to day. And there's various reasons that it does this. Some of it is water retention. It can be also a result of hormonal changes that are occurring, and it can even have to do with the time of day. So for example, if you weigh yourself first thing in the morning, let's say after you go to the bathroom when you wake up, you weigh yourself before you get dressed and start whatever you're going to do that first thing in the morning. You're going to probably weigh less at that point in the day than if you weigh yourself before you go to bed at night, because you haven't eaten anything and you've gone to the restroom and it's the first thing in the morning, right? So it's going to be very different even between two different points in the day, or depending on what time of day you weigh yourself. So these are some of the examples of why just going by the scale is really just, it's not giving you a complete picture at all. The second thing is muscle versus fat mass. So we all have a combination of both, right? And we all are familiar with, I would imagine, that that we have a certain percentage of body fat, and that body fat percentage is one of the things that we can measure when it comes to our overall body composition. And we also have muscle mass. So we all have a certain base level of muscle or amount of muscle, and then depending on whether or not you engage in weightlifting and strength training types of workouts, you may have more muscle or you're working to build muscle. So the scale does not differentiate between muscle mass and fat. Even some of these like fancier ones that have some of those features, I still question how accurate they are at detecting, what your true, the true ratios are, and percentages and whatnot, because they're based on other measures like BMI and things like that are going by your height and your weight, which again is very shallow measures in and of itself because it's not telling you the whole picture. So all that aside, gaining muscle, which is great for your metabolism and overall health, is going to make the number on the scale go up, or it could, depending on, some of the other things that play in your day to day. But this is a positive change. When you are working out, especially if you are weightlifting and doing strength training types of exercise as part of your overall workout routine, you are going to be burning body fat, and you're also going to be growing muscle. So as your body fat decreases, the muscle mass is increasing, and it's basically almost like displacement, if that's the right word. It's like it can often result in you seeing absolutely no change on the scale, even though you are actually changing your body and your body is recompositioning and shrinking. But you might not see the scale change at all because of the way that this, as you're decreasing your body fat and increasing your muscle mass. It doesn't mean that your body is not changing for the better just because the scale doesn't change. It just means that your composition is changing without resulting in a change in your weight yet. The change in weight will come eventually, but just in and of itself, let's say that you are, you've been working out consistently for 30 days, you're lifting weights, you're combining it with some steady state cardio, and you're eating a really good overall balanced diet where you've got a lot of protein and you're eating vegetables, you're drinking your water. So let's say you're doing all the things, right? And from day 1 to day 30, you don't see a change in the scale, or maybe you see some minimal changes on the scale, but not really what you might hope for. If you're just going by that, you're really missing the mark. You're really missing out on some of the other things that may be occurring, because you could easily be shrinking. So your body measurements could be going down, your clothes could be fitting better, and the way your body just looks in general could start to be changing. But if you're basing everything in terms of your progress on the number on the scale, you're going to miss all of those things, because it's very likely that the scale could stay put even though these other changes are happening. Again, because it's kind of like a swap, with the body fat going down and the muscle increasing, and muscle takes up less space than body fat does, which is why you will shrink even though the scale maybe doesn't move. So the third thing about why the scale sucks as a measure of your progress in and of itself is because of whole health, which is something I talk about a lot on this podcast. When I say whole health, I am referring to the fact that you are a physical body, you have a mind, and you have mental health that is important to keep track of, and you're also a spirit living in your physical body. So our health is comprised whole health is comprised of all three of these things. You need to take care of all three of these aspects of yourself. Weight is just one aspect of your health, and in and of itself is not an indication of your health. Focusing solely on your weight can overshadow other significant health markers and improvements that you could be making if you're just looking at the scale. So let's get into some of these other things about how you can measure your progress. So beyond the scale, and these are the measurements that actually matter when it comes to tracking your progress when you are, working on losing weight or just transforming your body in some other way. So these are some of the alternative ways that you can assess your progress that provide a more comprehensive picture of your progress. So the first one, and I touched on this a bit, is body measurements. So this is like using a tape measure to track changes in your body. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. And using the tape measure is a far better indicator of progress than the scale ever could be. Again, because it's going to get at what I was talking about a second ago. It's going to help you see if all of these efforts are resulting in you getting smaller as opposed to maybe getting bigger or just staying put. So you want to measure key areas such as your waist, hips, chest, shoulders, thighs, arms at a minimum. Those are really kind of the core. You could measure other things like your neck and some other like your calves and things like that. But those, if you're tracking these things consistently, that's really going to be a good overall picture of how you're doing. So the tape measure body measurement method is going to show you whether you're shrinking, meaning you are losing inches or you're decreasing in size, even if the scale doesn't budge. So to give you an example of what this looks like and some real life kind of proof of what I'm talking about here when I say that you can be shrinking even though the scale isn't moving at all. In my own personal journey, I remained at the same weight for well over a year. In fact, I still fluctuate. There's like a 5 to 10 pounds that I fluctuate up and down, even though overall my measurements and my size don't really change a whole lot at this point. But when I was first at the beginning of my journey, I dropped an initial 55 pounds when I started over the course of, I would say it was probably over about 8 months or so, that I dropped an initial 55 pounds and then the scale stopped moving. However, over this time, my measurements were decreasing. So I had like, when that scale had stopped moving, I dropped an additional 6 sizes and I lost over 10 inches overall on all of my body measurements, even though that scale did not move. The number on the scale had stayed the same for about a year. Yes, it fluctuated maybe 3 to 5 pounds, but I was generally at the same weight for over a year. However, my body was changing drastically, and this is what recompositioning really is. When I say, recomposition your body, that's what I'm referring to, because like I said, I was dropping dress and clothing sizes. My measurements were going down. I was fitting into different clothes and I looked very different compared to when I had started, even though the scale was the exact same number for a year. My weight never really dropped. And this is just how it works, because at the same time, I have, for what, 7, 8 years now, I've consistently, included weightlifting as part of my regular workout routine. I also do cardio and I also follow the same, eating approach that I talk about in my podcast episodes here, which is essentially, lean protein, lots of fruits and vegetables, whole foods, fresh foods, very minimal processed foods. That's generally what I eat day to day. And I hydrate with water. I really don't, drink a whole lot of other things, maybe some unsweetened tea. So for the most part, that's what I'm doing. And that is why, even though the number on the scale doesn't really change, has kind of been around the same. My size, my measurements, remain around the same level, or they will go down as I'm, increasing my efforts with my weightlifting and some of my workouts, and even, modifying on my eating plan. So this is why the scale is such can just really mess with your mind, and we put ourselves in these tailspins, and it's not even really real, because it's just one measurement that we're looking at, and if we're not looking at the overall picture, we're really missing how we're really doing, and we won't really notice that these other changes could be occurring. And it's they take time. It takes time. There's a saying in the fitness world about, I forget exactly how it goes, but it's something like, in, I think it's like in 6 weeks you'll feel it, in 12 weeks people will see it, something like that. So in other words, like, it's a good 3 months before other people are going to start to notice that your body is changing, because it takes time for your body to do this recompositioning. But the point is, it's happening, even though the scale might not be telling you that it is. So the second thing, in terms of alternative ways of measuring your progress, is body scanning apps. So technology can be your friend. And there's really a lot of great tools out there now in this day and age, with all these different apps and access to technology that we have now. So there's a number of these different apps you can download, many of which are free, that basically you get like a tripod or something that you can prop your phone up, and it will scan your body, and it will generate like a 3D model of your body. And they can track different changes over time, including a visual representation of your progress, and your body. So they can also do things like estimate your body measurements and your body fat percentage. So again, these are very helpful because it gives you like a visual that will show you how you're doing. The only thing I would add is that I would recommend that you still do the tape measurements in addition to these apps, because sometimes they can be off. So for example, there's one I use where it's been the same for a few months now, but my measurements are changing. So that's why I say it's important to still keep track of them, like, more manually, just because sometimes the app won't pick it up accurately, even though like your tape measure might be saying otherwise. So it's good to have kind of a multiple pronged approach to this as well, just so you get the whole picture. That takes me to number 3. Speaking of pictures, progress photos. These are so if anything, these are probably the best way to go about really seeing your change over time. Now, you're not going to see it, like, you probably won't notice change like from maybe 1 month to another, but I would say, like, if you start now and you look in like 6 months from now, you will be able to tell. You'll be able to see how your body is changing as a result of your efforts. Because when it comes to assessing your progress over time, a picture truly is worth 1,000 words. So take photos of yourself at regular intervals, and I recommend doing this on the same days that you're tracking your measurements. Like, so the same day that you're doing your tape measurements, the same day that you're checking your weight, that's when you want to take your pictures. You want to make sure that you do a front picture, a picture from the side, and then a picture from the back, so that you can kind of get that whole picture, that whole comprehensive view of how your progress is doing, how you're looking in pictures, how your posture is changing, and all of these kinds of things. And you want to try to wear the same thing every time you do these progress photos. So whether it's like the same swimsuit or the same workout, like top and shorts or something like that, whatever it is, you just want to try to make sure you're in either the same outfit or at least similar cuts of clothing, like if it's your underwear, for example. That way, it just makes it easier when you're comparing photos if you have like roughly the same thing on every time. That way you'll get a bit of a better idea from your pictures. And like I said, photos are just like such powerful motivators when it comes to visually tracking your transformation, because again, you can have like times where the scale isn't changing at all, and even your measurements might not change much, if at all. But when you look at those pictures, you can see the progress that you've accomplished. You can see how your body's looking different. So the pictures are really worth 1,000 words when it comes to this. So the fourth measure is how your clothes are fitting. Pay attention to how your clothes fit. Are your jeans getting looser? Is that dress that used to feel really tight starting to fit more comfortably now. The changes in how your clothes fit are a really great indicator of your progress, and they're a great way to tell you that you are actually getting somewhere with your efforts. You can easily drop sizes or feel changes in the way that your clothes fit without seeing anything happening on the scale. Like I said, that happened to me for a good year. And ultimately, it's far more rewarding when your clothes fit better and you feel better in your clothes than any number on a scale will, right? I mean, do you really, if you think about it, if you like have that dress sitting in your closet for like, I don't know, a year and you haven't been able to wear it and you can finally put it on and you feel comfortable in it and it doesn't feel like you're squeezed into it, isn't that better than any number on the scale? Like, are you really going to care what the scale says when you're able to wear that dress you've been keeping and hanging on to? Like, probably not, right? So um these are kind of the reasons I think that these other measures and methods of measurement are so much more powerful, and they're just, this is really what we really want at the end of the day, yet we get so hung up on the scale. So who cares if the scale hasn't budged if you feel confident in that dress and that you couldn't wear before, or that was too tight for you to feel confident in it, or you get to go buy smaller pants because your old pants don't fit you anymore. Like, those are really like more rewarding and exciting, in my opinion, anyway. And then the last one is how you feel. I mean, this is really what it's all about. Your energy levels, your mood, your overall well-being are really, really critical indicators of your progress. So, look at these things as well. Don't get so hung up on the scale that you miss the other benefits that you're realizing and accomplishing as a result of your weight loss or your dieting or your fitness efforts. Are you feeling more energetic? Are you sleeping better? Are you having less stress? These are all signs that your health is improving and that you're getting somewhere and you're doing really good with your efforts. So even if the scale doesn't reflect it immediately, so what? If you're having these other outcomes, these are all really great indications. And oftentimes, in fact, most of the time, when you're first starting off with some sort of a fitness journey or weight loss effort, these are the things that you're going to notice first. These are the things that are going to start to become more apparent to you in the beginning before you start to see the physical changes. So if you're early on in the stage of your weight loss journey and fitness journey and the scale's not moving yet, look at these things. Ask yourself these questions, because these are the early indicators of your success in making your progress to where you want to get with your body. And then the last thing I want to mention is mind and spirit. These are integral parts of your overall journey. Just remember that whole health, like I said, it is the health of our physical body and the mind and the spirit. So celebrate the non-scale victories and be kind to yourself. Self-compassion and mental well-being are so crucial for long-term success. As a matter of fact, you you make your weight loss and your body transformation efforts so much more difficult for yourself when you are being self-critical and speaking negatively about your body to yourself, even if it's just in your head. So standing in front of the mirror and like thinking that you look disgusting or you look fat or you don't like the way your body looks and picking your body apart is the same thing as saying crappy things about yourself out loud. So either one counts, right? So when you're doing this, it's like you're just making it more of an uphill battle. It's like trying to swim upstream. I mean, yes, you could swim and theoretically you could get there, but it's going to be a heck of a lot harder than if you just go in the direction of the current, or if you, get on the same side as you're working for yourself and start speaking positively to yourself. I call it speaking life. Speak life to yourself. Speak what you want into existence, including how you want to look and feel. So even though at the beginning of your journey, and I've been very transparent in my podcast and everything, I talk about in here and on my blog about my own journey and how I have had a very negative inner dialogue about my body. I have spent a lot of my life hating my body. I have battled with body dysmorphia for most of my life. This is something I still have to work on, and it's something I still put a lot of effort into. And everything I talk about in this podcast are things that I do myself and I practice myself and that I have seen the rewards and the fruits of these efforts, but it's an ongoing, constant thing that you have to do. I say all that to say that it's important to do this because when you speak life to yourself and when you speak positively to yourself, your body will follow suit. It may take some time for it to catch up, but it will respond and it will rise to the occasion. So if you're starting off on your journey, let's say you're at the beginning of your journey and you have, I don't know, let's say you have 75 pounds you need to lose, and you're looking in the mirror and you hate the way you look. So when you first start with affirmations, for example, it's gonna feel kind of like stupid, like to stand there and be like, I am gorgeous, I am beautiful, my body is beautiful, I love my body, right? Like that's gonna feel very unnatural at the beginning of doing this. And that's okay. Just roll with it. You're by yourself in the privacy of your bathroom or your closet or wherever you're looking in the mirror. Just do it. Just refuse to say nasty crap to yourself about your body and about the way your body looks, and only allow yourself to speak life into yourself and your body. So I am healthy, fit, and toned is one thing you could say to yourself. My body is beautiful, I love my body as it is, I love my body every step of the way along my journey. Whatever affirmation resonates for you, find something that you can repeat to yourself all day, every day, but also especially while you're looking in the mirror, and do not allow yourself to criticize or pick yourself apart. This takes practice and it takes discipline. However, it is probably more important than anything else you're going to do, because again, if you can't get your mind on board and you can't clean up what's happening in the mind in terms of your inner dialogue and how you view your body and how you view yourself, none of the rest of it's going to matter. You could lose all the weight in the world, but if you still have this kind of negative inner dialogue going on, like it's not going to matter because you're still going to see through that lens. So that is why I wanted to include this last little segment about that, about the importance of the mind and the spirit and how you talk to yourself and speak it into existence. So speak positively to yourself, speak positively to others. Don't even allow yourself to criticize other people, even in your mind. Really start practicing this, because I promise it is going to change everything for you, and you will start to feel different. You will start to view things differently, and everything around you will start to change. So that is kind of the last thing I wanted to mention about the mind. The journey to health, it's multifaceted and it is deeply personal, and it can be very challenging. But by using these alternative methods to measure progress, you will have a comprehensive picture of your transformation. The scale is just one tool among many, and it should never define your worth or your success in and of itself. Like I said, I mean, I would say you could probably throw the scale out completely and still find ways to measure your progress following these other methods that I've laid out, and never really miss the scale. It's just one of the different ways of measuring. It is not the end all be all, even though as a society we have kind of made it the end all be all of weight loss or progress with our weight. So my advice to you, with love as always, is stay the heck off that damn scale, at least for a while, and focus on other measures of progress. So stay empowered, stay motivated, and remember, you are more than a number on the scale. As always, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you find this podcast helpful, please consider contributing to support the podcast. I'll include the link in the comments on the Facebook Live, and I'll also include it in the episode description and in the YouTube channel description. And as always, I appreciate your support and all of you who are subscribed to the podcast, who listen and tune in regularly. And if you aren't already, please like, share, and subscribe, to just get this out to others that you think would also appreciate the podcast. So until next episode, I wish you all health, happiness, and alignment.